All right, ready to dive in. Today, we're looking at the infinity pool.
Oh, this should be interesting.
Yeah, it came out of that whole GameStop thing. You remember?
Yeah, how could I forget?
Well, this wasn't just about a stock, right?
Yeah.
It was retail investors,
Hmm.
a bunch of self-proclaimed regards taking on Wall Street.
Yeah, that was wild. This infinity pool, though, what I find so fascinating is how it completely flips the script.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like, instead of the whales making all the waves, it's like a school of, minnows making a tsunami?
Uh-huh, yeah. It's a great analogy. So you've got a blueprints theory, this idea that you get dedicated retail investors
Yeah.
holding a specific stock, GameStop in this case, and they refuse to sell, no matter what the price does.
So they basically make the stock scarce.
Right, they're reducing the liquidity.
Okay, and how does that scarcity affect, like, the big players, the
Right.
short sellers, right? Those betting against the stock.
Think about it this way. Short sellers borrow shares. They're betting the price is going to drop.
Correct.
So they can buy them back later for cheaper and make a profit.
Makes sense.
But now a bunch of these shares are locked away in this infinity pool.
Oh, I see.
So they have trouble finding shares to cover their positions, especially if the price goes up and up instead of down.
Yeah, it's like a game of musical chairs, but someone took away most of the chairs before the music stopped. And those short sellers, they're the ones left standing.
Yeah, precisely. And all that scarcity drives the price up, which can cause what's called a short squeeze. And with GameStop, we're talking the hypothetical MOASS, the mother of all short squeezes.
Okay, MOASS is where I need a bit more explanation. How does holding on to the stock collectively cause this massive event?
So as the price goes up, because there just aren't many shares out there, the short sellers, they get squeezed. They have to buy at these higher and higher prices to cover what they borrowed.
Oh, wow.
And that buying drives the price even higher. It's a feedback loop. Blueprints even thought this could lead to, like, multiple cycles of squeezing, a total market roller coaster.
Right, but wouldn't people just sell as the price shoots up? I mean, who wouldn't want to cash in?
Well, that's where the diamond hands thing comes in.
Right, diamond hands.
It's this unwavering commitment to holding on to the stock, no matter how high it climbs. The whole infinity pool idea hinges on a bunch of investors refusing to sell. It's not just about individual profit, it's about achieving a collective goal.
Almost like a social experiment, isn't it? Testing how far collective action and conviction can go. But how does this play out in the real world? How do people actually build this infinity pool?
At first, it was all about this buy and hold strategy. Simple. But then comes this game changer. Direct registration of shares, or DRS.
Ah, DRS, right.
This wasn't part of Blueprints' initial idea, but it's become huge.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about it lately.
With DRS, investors hold shares directly with the company's transfer agent. It takes them completely out of the brokerage system.
So those shares can't be borrowed or shorted.
Right, it's like a wall around a chunk of the shares.
Makes sense. So it gives these investors more control, right? Even less shares available on the market.
Exactly. And it makes that infinity pool even stronger, even tougher for anyone betting against the stock. It's fascinating, really. As a whole new dimension to this battle, I guess you could say, between retail investors and Wall Street.
Yeah. It's amazing how this has gone beyond just holding a stock. It's strategic, it's tactical. But we've talked a lot about how powerful the infinity pool could be. Are there any weaknesses, though? Potential problems? Can't all be smooth sailing, right?
Of course not. One big thing is that it all relies on, like, the unity and discipline of a bunch of individual investors.
Right.
We could be talking about years of holding, riding out ups and downs in the market, not selling when things get crazy, or even when they look really, really good.
That's a lot to ask,
And-
especially from a huge group of people with different financial situations, different comfort levels with risk.
Totally. And then you've got the institutions, the hedge funds, with all their resources, their fancy strategies. They're not just going to sit back and watch this happen.
Yeah, they could try to counter it, manipulate things.
Right. So it's kind of like David and Goliath, yeah. But this time David brought a really tricked out slingshot.
Yeah.
But we have to remember, even David had to be super precise, super strategic. And this is where the psychology of this whole thing, the infinity pool, gets really interesting. So let's go back to the beginning. Back to eBlueprints. He wasn't just some random internet guy, this was a data scientist.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he approached the market with this unique blend of quantitative analysis, but also almost like a prophetic vision.
So he wasn't just winging it. There was a method to his madness.
Absolutely. He dug into GameStop's financials, looked at the short interest, the potential for a gamma squeeze. He crunched all the numbers. And you know what? He made a really compelling argument that GameStop was undervalued, big time, and that it was ripe for, well, a massive short squeeze.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me. A gamma squeeze. What is that, and how is it different from a regular short squeeze?
Think of it this way. A regular short squeeze. It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. It's tough, but you might get there. A gamma squeeze. That's like that boulder suddenly rolling downhill, gaining momentum with every rotation.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture.
It happens when options traders, they get forced to buy shares to cover their positions. And that just adds fuel to the fire of a short squeeze that's already happening.
A squeeze on top of a squeeze, got it.
Yeah, and Blueprints, he thought the conditions were perfect for this with GameStop. He saw this potential chain reaction. Short sellers get caught off guard by the price going up, and they scramble to cover, which then triggers a gamma squeeze, and the price just explodes.
So we've got the infinity pool, this gamma squeeze. Could all this actually create a financial earthquake?
That's exactly what he predicted. GameStop's price going astronomical, driven by all this buying pressure from the short sellers covering and everyone in the infinity pool holding.
Okay, this is where my head starts to spin a little. Let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. Even with all the math, all the theory, this all relies on people doing things that, on the surface seem kind of irrational. Why wouldn't someone sell when a stock goes crazy like that?
See, that's what's so interesting about the infinity pool. It's not just about making as much money as you can for each individual. It's about almost redefining what a market should be.
So it's bigger than just making money.
Right. Blueprints, he really believed in this power of the collective. Individuals coming together with a shared goal to kind of disrupt that whole Wall Street hierarchy. He thought by holding on, by creating this pool of shares that just wouldn't budge, they could actually expose the weaknesses in the system and level the playing field.
It's taking power back from the institutions, putting it in the hands of, regular people.
That was the vision. And it's really resonated, especially with people who feel like, I don't know, maybe the system's rigged against them.
I get it. It's definitely a compelling story. But how do you square this idealistic vision with the reality of the market? I mean, we've talked about the institutions pushing back, the psychological pressure, and holding for the long haul. That's tough.
Yeah, no, you're right. There are risks, challenges built in, and that's why you have to look at this critically. See the potential, sure, but also the pitfalls.
Okay, let's talk about those pitfalls. What could derail this infinity pool strategy?
Well, one big one is regulation. If the regulators, the government, see this as a threat to the market, they could intervene, like with trading halts, or maybe they restrict short selling, or even investigate, see if there's any manipulation going on.
So just by trying to disrupt the system, they can end up attracting a lot of unwanted attention.
Exactly. And then there's the whole trust thing, the coordination. For the infinity pool to work, you need everyone to trust each other. But it's a decentralized movement, right? Everyone's making their own decisions.
It could fall apart from the inside. People start second-guessing, getting scared when the market jumps around.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't forget about the psychological games that get played aimed at retail investors. We talked about FUD, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But there are groups, people who are really good at spreading misinformation, trying to cause panic, get people to sell.
So it's like a fight on two fronts. Pressure from the institutions, the regulators, and then the internal battle.
Yeah.
Against fear and doubt.
It's complicated, yeah. And that's why this is such a fascinating case study, this infinity pool. It's like a live experiment. Collective action, the psychology of investing, the power of belief.
I'm starting to see why people are so interested in this. It's more than just buying and holding a stock.
Yeah, it's about challenging what we think we know, questioning authority, believing that together people can create real change. And that, I think, goes way beyond just finance.
So we've talked a lot about the theory, the big picture. But I'm curious about the nuts and bolts. What are these regards actually doing to try and make this infinity pool real?
Oh, it's not just passively holding, They're actively strategizing. We talked about DRS, right?
Yeah.
But it goes beyond that. Some of these online communities, they're really tracking things closely, like what percentage of the stock's float is locked up via DRS. It's become this rallying point, almost a competition.
So like a measuring stick, showing how powerful they are collectively.
Exactly. And it kind of creates a feedback loop. More people see those DRS numbers climbing, and their belief gets stronger. which then brings in more participants. And then there's this thing called the infinite holders network.
Yeah, I've seen that term, but I'm not really sure what it is.
Think of it like taking all that energy, that passion from those online forums where this all started,
Right.
and making it more, I don't know, organized, more structured,
Right.
decentralized communication, educational resources, coordinating strategies, all focused on supporting and strengthening the infinity pool.
So it's less about memes, more about turning those regards into like a force to be reckoned with.
Exactly, giving them the tools, the knowledge to navigate this whole thing and to fight back against all the misinformation out there. Because this isn't just a financial strategy, it's like this clash of ideologies, you know?
Spell for control.
Yeah. It's a lot like a chess game, but with way higher stakes and a lot more players.
And in this game, it sounds like psychology matters as much as like the actual money moves.
Oh, absolutely. We talked about FUD, but there's also a big effort to, counter all that negativity with positive reinforcement.
So instead of fear and doubt, it's like confidence and unity.
Right. Think about those slogans, diamond hands. It's all about holding on no matter what the market does, building up this resilience, this belief that together they can withstand anything.
It's wild how this whole thing has developed its own language, its own symbols. It's like financial folklore, heroes, villains, the quest for a better future.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, this live experiment in the power of belief, how groups work together. And, can regular people really change systems that seem so set in stone?
So after looking at all this, the theory, the tactics, does it work? Can this group of regards really take on Wall Street?
That's the million-dollar question. We've seen flashes of potential, for sure, times where the market has done things no one expected. But can this strategy really work long-term? That's still TBD.
So it's a gamble, maybe a high-stakes experiment. We don't know how it'll turn out.
In a way, yeah. But the outcome, the money, maybe that's not the most important part. It's the message underneath. The infinity pool, whether it works or not, has started a conversation. It's challenging the status quo, reminding us that even the biggest, most powerful systems, they can change.
It's a reminder that collective action, believing in something together, that can make waves, real waves.
Exactly. And that's why we'll be watching this closely. Because it's not just about one stock, it's about people and their potential to change the systems that shape our lives.
This has been quite a deep dive. I feel like I've learned about a financial strategy, but also about like a social movement happening right in front of us. Any last thoughts for our listeners as they wrap their heads around all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is to be informed. Do your research. Whether you think the infinity pool is amazing or you're skeptical, it's crucial to understand how it works, the risks, what could happen.
So everyone out there, learn as much as you can. Think critically. And don't be afraid to, question what you hear.
Couldn't have said it better myself. There's so much information out there. It's more important than ever to be able to, filter it, analyze, come to your own conclusions.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to come up for air. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the infinity pool. It's a concept that makes us rethink the market and the power of belief.
Until next time, stay curious. Keep asking those questions.
And remember, the best investments are in knowledge, in critical thinking, and in your own journey of learning. Thanks for diving in with us.